The end of the year is upon us, so it is time to see if I have accomplished my quest. I have not. I can tell you right now, I have not. I previously put out a video of the 22 books I wanted to read in 2022, and today we are going to go over the list that I made of the books that I wanted to read and see how many of them I actually read. Starting the list off is the Realm of the Elderlings series by Rob and Hobb. I counted every single one of these books individually, but I excluded 2 of the series within the Realm of the Elderlings, and that is the Farseer Trilogy and the Liveship Traders Trilogy. And guess what? The only books that I read this year are from the Farseer Trilogy and the Liveship Traders Trilogy. So, I've failed. I've read Rob and Hobb books. I've read Realm of the Elderling books, but I still failed because I set the challenge too hard. That is the majority of the books on the list, but we still have some others to go over, so let's take a look at them. In at number 14 of the 22 books is The Goblin Emperor. I started this one. It was good. I enjoyed what I read. I got sick, and I had brain fog and couldn't focus, and the book went back to the library, and I never checked it out again, and I haven't finished it. But I still want to read it, so this one, like, half counts, right? At number 16 is The Six Tudor Queens. I have not read this one. I don't even plan to read this one soon. I feel bad about that. So I used to read a lot of historical fiction growing up, but whenever I was reading historical fiction, I was reading middle grade historical fiction because that was at my age level. And I've never really transitioned into reading adult historical fiction. So while I'm going, I want to get back into historical fiction books, as an adult, I've still enjoyed some middle grade historical fiction books, but I've struggled to enjoy adult historical fiction books. I really tried this year, but every adult historical fiction book I picked up, I DNF'd, all except for one, and I didn't even like the one that I finished. Now, I did not pick up Six Tudor Queens, and I do still want to read it, but it is pushed down my TBR because I'm just not as confident that I will enjoy it. It's a little bit sad. I'm gonna keep trying because I want to like adult historical fiction. Maybe I'm just not picking up the right books. Number 16 is The Captive Kingdom and the Shattered Castle. I don't know why I put these as the same number because that's 2 different books. But I did read both of these. So yay, I actually accomplished something this year. I read The Captive Kingdom. It is the 4th book in the Ascendance series that used to be a trilogy, and it really should have stayed a trilogy. That might not have been the best books that I read this year, but hey, I accomplished something. I did the thing. Number 17 on my list is Do You Dream of Terra-Two? And I did not read this one. I didn't even really think about this one that much this year, which is sad because whenever I see this book, I'm going, I really should read that. But I didn't, so maybe next year? Number 18 is Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. So this one's also a historical fiction. Now, it is a young adult historical fiction, and I have read other Ruta Sepetys books that I've enjoyed, so I should really give this one a try. The reason I didn't read it is because Ruta Sepetys books are usually sad books. I usually cry when I read them, and I never really felt at any point in this year that I'm like, I want to read a tearjerker. That's why I haven't read Fountain of Silence, more so than the fact that it was historical fiction, but I mean, that's also a little piece of it, unfortunately. Number 19 is City of Lies, and this is also one that I barely thought about this year, unfortunately. I do still want to read this one. It's pretty high on my TBR. Maybe I can read it this year. Number 20 is Spellwrite, which is probably the most shameful book on this list because this is a book I own, and this is a book I own and haven't read, and this is a book I continue to own and continue to not read. Why haven't I read this book already? I don't know. It looks really interesting, but it sits on my shelf unread. It stares at me, and I think about it all the time because I can feel its stares. Number 21 is Spinning Silver, and I've run out of excuses for why I've not read the books on this list. I still want to read this one. I still want to read all the books on this list. Number 22 is A Wizard of Earthsea, and I still want to read this one. I'm pretty sure I started it with the audiobook and I just really wasn't clicking with the audiobook, so I wanted to check out the physical book and try to read it that way, and hopefully I could get into the story better, and then I just didn't get around to reading the physical book this year, but hey, I tried. Those are my list of 22 books. I also had some honorable mentions, and we will go over them because I did slightly better on the honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is For the Wolf, and I actually read this one, sort of. I DNF'd it. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't working for me, and I was halfway through. I think it was right around the 50% mark, and I was really bored, and I was like not really interested in where the story was going. So, you know, I tried. This one half counts. I read half the book. The next one is Tomorrow's Kin, which I was interested in because it's a first contact with the alien story, but whenever I went to go read this one, I realized it was also a pandemic story, and I was not ready for a pandemic story just yet. So that is why I've not read this one, but I attempted to check it out and realized it was not for me this year. And the third honorable mention is The Bear and the Nightingale, which I did read. Yay! I need confetti on the screen. Hopefully I can find a thing for that. This is probably the one that I read on this list that I enjoyed the most. It was not one of my favorite books that I read this year, but I'm glad that I read it. So if you've made it this far in the video, leave a sword emoji for accomplishing the quests. Like, even though I failed in this quest this year, I tried. So I at least get a sword emoji. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you have accomplished your goals this year, or if you have failed as epically as I have. And I hope to see you in another video. Happy reading.